there was absolutely no basis for them to be taken. There is no basis for them to be held. There is certainly no basis for them to be tried. All Americans are concerned about their welfare. President Milosevic should make no mistake. The United States takes care of its own.
Welcome back to Hannity and Colmes. I'm Sean Hannity. While the Serbs celebrated the propaganda coup over the capture of 3 U.S. soldiers, NATO is holding them responsible for their safety. Yet, short of sending in ground troops, a move the president says is not under consideration, how can we bring Milosevic to justice and stop this genocide? Joining us once again, retired Army Colonel David Hackworth, Shirley Cloyes, Balkan Affairs advisors for the Albanian American Civic League, and Frank Gaffney is the director of the Center for Security Policy. You just heard the president say there's no reason for them to be taken. There's no basis for them to be held, no basis for them to be tried. I'm sorry, we just bombed these people.
Yeah,
what does he expect?
He's talking like this is some kind of legal case. This guy's got to get on with his life and realize that we're at war, and he's been causing wars and disasters since '93. Let's just go through them. Let's start with Somalia. Let's go to Haiti, which, by the way, we're pulling out of there officially in August now. And let's go to the mess in Iraq, the mess in Bosnia. And we have one military disaster after the other. Now, bringing the Serbian thing in.
You called this war the worst military mistake since Lebanon, and you also, to my surprise, expressed shock that the POWs, these 3 men, didn't shoot back. Explain these things.
That really surprised me. Having been in that kind of situation, having had men in my unit taken by the Serbs when we fought them from '46 to 1950 up in that same area, I was shocked that the soldiers didn't shoot back. It tells me that there was a breakdown in the chain of command, and maybe it's on the rules of engagement. They didn't have locked and cocked weapons. More important than that, it was an armored Cav squadron. Where were their tanks? Why were they driving along in light Humvees, which is like a convertible?
Frank Gaffney, you released a position paper saying that Clinton's decision to go into Kosovo is motivated by his determination to save his own skin. Now, you and I may both agree that this is not a well-thought-out exercise without a good exit strategy. A lot of problems should never have been conceived this way in the first place. But again, to make that statement that this is only some kind of PR ploy to spin this, to get our minds off other issues like China, is really to disrespect the military establishment, isn't it? Because Bill Clinton didn't make this decision by himself. He's got a chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff. He's got the Pentagon to talk to. He's got other people with whom he consorts to make these kinds of decisions.
No, there's one guy who issues the orders, though, and the rest of them follow the orders. And I think the military certainly gave him the plan, such as it was, to go do something, but he made the decision, and I think probably Sandy Berger and a few people in the civilian chain of command around him made the decision to go now. And I just suggest to you that whether it was the only factor, probably not, but I gotta believe, given this guy's track record with Osama bin Laden, with Saddam Hussein, most recently wagging the dog, that getting the hemorrhage that the scandal concerning espionage and financial penetration and other kinds of subversion by Communist China of this government was a factor.
Isn't that too simple an explanation?
Right now?
You know, to say wag the dog at this point, you really think this president would risk American lives for the sake of his own PR? You really believe that would be the case?
I really have to disagree with that.
Go ahead, Shirley.
I really have to disagree with that, and there's one reason why, and the reason is terrible. Kenneth Bacon, the spokesperson for the Pentagon, said just yesterday, we were predisposed to feed 400,000 people in the Balkans for 6 months. We knew what was coming. And we also knew that Slobodan Milosevic, which is what we're supposed to be focusing on, or should be, was fighting in Slovenia in '91, then went on to Croatia, to Bosnia, is now back in Kosova. In this case, you cannot establish any parity with the situation in Iraq or Somalia. Right. We finally had no choice, Shirley, because NATO and Clinton were backed into a corner. We didn't act soon enough. We should have acted much sooner.
Shirley, we got to take a break, but before we do, we'll check in with Fox News Channel Shepard Smith. He has a special programming note right after the Cryer Report tonight at 10 Eastern. At 11 o'clock, Shep, what do we have going on?
Sean, special edition of Fox News tonight. We're going to be live at the Pentagon with all the latest on what's going on over there. We're live at Holloman Air Force Base as well, and we'll hear the latest on how friends and family of those missing GIs are reacting tonight. We'll talk live with one of their friends on that show. In addition, we'll debate what should happen next from the Serbian side and from the Kosovar Albanian side. Also, latest reports from our correspondents at NATO headquarters in Brussels, and the latest from the target zone as well. It's all in a special edition tonight of Fox News, 10 o'clock Eastern, 7 o'clock Pacific, right after Catherine Cryer's live show. Hope to see you then. Sean,
thank you, Shepard. We look forward to that, and we're going to take a quick break here. Now, our telephone lines are all jammed up. If you've been having some difficulty getting through, well, there are other ways you can contact us here at the Fox News Channel, and we'll put it up on the screen, Hannity, foxnews.com. That's our email. Also, Colmes at foxnews.com. There's our website address and our fax number. When we come back, we'll be getting to more of your calls and more of our debate. In New York, retired Army Colonel David Hackworth, also Shirley Cloyes, Balkan Affairs Advisor for the Albanian American Civic League. And in Washington, we welcome retired Navy Captain Ryan Henry. He's now with the Center for Strategic and International Studies. By the way, Captain, welcome back. It's been a while. And you also flew more than 80 sorties over Iraq during the Gulf War. We'll get to you about that in just a second. Colonel Hackworth, I'm going to turn to you and start with you. During this, we just saw that devastation and that peace. And during that, you said, in the middle of it, I'll quote you, "What did we do this for?" Yeah. That's what you said. Why did you say that?
It just doesn't make sense. Why would NATO bomb a city like that? Now, you can't say all of that damage was caused by NATO. A lot was caused by the Serbs. But to me, it not exactly a military target. It didn't lend itself to the destruction of the Serbian army. What was the point of it?
Shirley, you even want to go further. Not only have you supported the president and supported these strikes, which one of the big results that was not anticipated by the administration was the escalation by Slobodan Milosevic against the ethnic Albanians, but you want to take it a step further. No, you are willing to send in U.S. troops, men and American boys into this conflict, and you want these forces on the ground. Tell us why.
Wait a minute. Let's start with what Colonel Hackworth just said. Do you really believe that NATO's responsible for most of this damage? Isn't this Slobodan Milosevic's M.O. again and again? We've seen this. He's conducted 4 wars, as we know, since 1991 in the Balkans.
Do you disagree with the analysis that the NATO bombing resulted in his escalation against the ethnic Albanians?
Absolutely not. Again and again, we have to go back to the fact that between Rambouillet and Paris, for 3 weeks, we were supposedly in negotiations. And what was happening? 40,000 Serbian troops were amassing on the border with M84 tanks.
They dug themselves in because we told them either you go along with this idea where we would grant autonomy. He didn't want to go along with that deal, and then he had all this time to dig in these 40,000 troops.
Exactly, and we did absolutely nothing.
And then we made, Colonel, you backed me up on this, and then we're going to go to Captain Ryan Henry here for just a second. But we also telegraphed we're not going to go in with ground troops, we're not going to do this, and all that did was give him an opportunity to dig in deeper, right?
Yeah, and it also told him that we weren't coming with ground troops, so he didn't have to deploy his forces accordingly, and he could disperse, and now that is why our air attack on his tactical army is a total
Ryan
failure.
Henry, Colonel Hackworth just said it all. We have telegraphed every move we're going to make. We talked about not having ground troops. He knew we were coming in. Milosevic now knows Apache helicopters. It's going to take 3 weeks to get Apache helicopters. Why are we doing it this way?
Well, we've reduced ourselves to the least common denominator in order to get 19 nations to give us unanimous agreement. So we have ceded to him the elements of surprise and deception, and we went in at a very low level of intensity, especially relative to Desert Storm.
Who fights a war ceding the area of surprise and doesn't fight to win and think you can fight a limited war with no casualties? All we see in the piece we just showed was bombed out buildings, no people, no dead bodies. Is that the way wars are usually fought?
Well, that's what the American people would like to have. They would like to have painless victory after victory after victory. And when we do our policy decisions, we have a horizon of the next polling, then this is the situation we find ourselves in.
I'd like to jump in right there. The polls say that the American people, 70% of them support a ground war.
Exactly.
But I did a radio show at Fort Benning, Georgia, Columbus, Georgia, the home of the infantry, where there are many, many thousands of combat veterans. They had done a poll there, and 80% of the combat veterans said, don't go. Now, I think the problem is that we have so few veterans in our society that those who are saying, let's go, let's blow them away, their whole view of war is based on video, Desert Storm, bloodless, antiseptic, and not the reality of war.
What I want